All right, let me see, my Seattle background looks better.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah.
So it looks like streaming already started.
Yes. Ross, you can start at 7.
All right, sounds good. I'll start sharing my screen. All right, let's begin. All right, great. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on this fine Saturday afternoon, early Saturday evening. So just friends at home and abroad. I know we have viewers in multiple countries joining us this fine evening. So welcome to Silicon Valley Leadership Community. And our event today is the global business impact of the cloud computing technology infrastructure wave. So I would like to welcome everyone to have an opportunity to scan our QR codes to join and follow us on both our LinkedIn and WeChat groups. And we'll put those QR codes up again at the very end of the event. But feel free to follow us, give us suggestions and feedback on our events, and look forward to news on our upcoming sessions as well. Let's get started. All right, so just a quick intro to SVLC. So SVLC, Silicon Valley Leadership Community, was founded in 2019 by 4 top tech company executives and is one of the world's fastest growing leadership communities, with hundreds of well-known leaders, including distinguished executives, managers from well-established companies, top university professors, venture capitalists, professionals holding MBAs from top business schools, and entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley and abroad. We have thousands of select members with the mission and commitment to help leaders grow. So our vision is essentially to foster a community and opportunities for world-class leaders in the technology sector in multiple locations, but centered on the Silicon Valley area. Our mission is essentially to help to build our community, to help and support each other, to build the influence of our members, and to give back to the community and invest in one another to build everyone's careers and push the industry and society forward. So I'd like to give a quick overview to some of our previous speakers, if you haven't had a chance, if this is going to be your first session with SVLC. So just some examples. We have a lot of luminary minds coming from the tech sector and executive spaces from a variety of functions. So Fortune 500 companies and unicorns, Box, LinkedIn, Google Cloud, Salesforce, and more. And some of our previous events, you can see some of our previous topics on the future of education, future of work. We will have upcoming events on the future of the streaming business, autonomous vehicles, as well as further developments in the B2C and B2B marketing approaches with the tech industry. Just some other examples are our most recent events. We had CIO of Box, Paul Chapman, join us, as well as the founder and CEO of Otter AI, Sam Leong. Also, topics within the food and travel industry. So senior directors from Netflix and Yelp and Airbnb, and upcoming events related to the streaming industry with luminaries from TikTok, YouTube, and Quibi. Some more examples of our most recent events. Lots of excellent speakers. So I would like to also give out a shout out to our co-host to the SVLC event today, and that is Tencent Cloud. So Tencent Cloud is a secure, reliable, and high-performance public cloud service provider that integrates Tencent's infrastructure building capabilities with the advantages of its massive user platform and ecosystem. They provide a considerable number of cloud services, such as cloud computing, data processing, and cloud operations services to empower your business. Again, thank you to Tencent Cloud for co-hosting with us. So I'd like to give, before we hand off to Lake to start our discussion this evening, I'd like to give a quick introduction on the background of our speakers today. So our first speaker is Davy Wong. So Davy Wong is the Cloud Solutions Architect at Tencent Cloud International, providing technical leadership and strategy for Tencent Cloud's global business division. Previously, he was the regional director of Amazon AWS Greater China region, where under his direction, his team helped many of China's top internet companies design and optimize their architectures. Prior to that, he was the director and senior technical expert at Alibaba Cloud and senior architect manager at IBM Global Services. Steve Fu started his engineering career in Silicon Valley in the mid-90s. In Microsoft, he led a wide range of software product development projects such as MSN and Windows Hyper-V. He joined AWS while EC2 was in its infancy, built and ran the EC2 security engineering and response team, defending the largest public cloud in the internet. Currently, Steve is the VP of Security Software Engineering in Salesforce's Seattle office, building security services and solutions to protect the company's cloud infrastructure and SaaS services. As a seasoned engineering leader, Steve has filed 8 patents and is the expert in software engineering tools, virtualization, cloud, security, and engineering management practices. Carol Carpenter just recently joined VMware in June 2020 as the CMO. She is responsible for leading all aspects of the global marketing organization, including corporate marketing, partner, segment, and field marketing. Carol brings to the role more than 25 years of technology sector experience. She was the VP of product marketing at Google Cloud. Prior to Google Cloud, Carol was the CEO of ElasticBox, which was acquired by CenturyLink, and held leadership and marketing roles at in technology at Trend Micro, Keynote Systems, Apple, and more. And finally, we'd like to introduce our illustrious moderator for today, Lake Dai. Lake is an entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, and an adjunct professor at Carnegie Mellon University. She is a partner at the venture capital firm LDV Partners. For 20 years, she has led product and engineering teams globally at Alibaba, Apple, Yahoo, and Silicon Valley tech startups. She's a recognized expert in search engines, ad platform, marketplace, analytics, mobile platforms, and applications, holding 5 US patents in search algorithms, search tokenization, mobile data analytics, and mobile monetization. She is on the advisory board of Women in Technology International, WITI, the premier global organization empowering women in business and technology. She is also a board governor and chairwoman of the US chapter of QCH, a nonprofit organization which fosters entrepreneurship for Alibaba alumni worldwide. And with that, Lake, I'd like to hand off the conversation to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross, for the introduction. And thank you, the Silicon Valley leadership community to put this great event. This is amazing lined up, and it's a pleasure to speak with the other 3 distinguished panelists about cloud computing. Because this is a leadership community, so my first questions for the panelists is, what has been your career choices and personal growth paths that lead you to where you are today? And why did you choose cloud computing as the focus of area? So David, do you want to go first?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I started my career as a consultant, and a lot of my effort was put into the enterprise application integration. And at that time, I found that there's a really critical issues to integrate all the applications, especially for enterprise. And at that time, I was working for IBM, and around 2008, IBM provided the first private cloud solutions, and I realized that this would be the next wave of technology. And since then, I successfully implement several private cloud solutions to several of the top companies in China. And after that, I feel that public cloud will be the best. There's no limitations, and people can do pretty much everything, and the public cloud could bring a lot of value to enterprise. And then I joined Alibaba Cloud at a very early stage. And then AWS came into China. So I think maybe that's the #1 cloud company in the world. So I feel very pleasure to be their founding team members in China, growing the team, and work there for about 4 years. And then I joined Tencent Cloud International, and I think maybe my role will be look like bring the Chinese cloud into the world, because currently we have a global footprint, and I realized that Tencent could bring their not only cloud computing services, but also solutions to benefit all the customers all over the world.
I see. So it sounds like you have very determined to choose this as your career path and bet on the cloud computing. And Steve, do you share the same story, similar story?
Yeah. I would say that my career path has been full of all sorts of random things, but really, I feel that I am someone that have been driven by technology passion for a long time. And really, I want to work on something that's exciting. That's started my early career in Silicon Valley, and then I came to Seattle in '98 to join Microsoft, and probably stay a little bit too long, and to be honest. And part of it is because they have so much stuff that I can work on, and so many different technology, and you name it, right? Complex compiler, complex database application, embedded devices, MSN when internet is still in the early stage. I work on all of them. And really, I want to work on something that's exciting and fun, right? So that's have been my passion. Then last thing I worked on was Hyper-V version 1, which is Microsoft really trying to catch up with VMware so that they are not left behind with the virtualization space, right? I was part of the management team lead the release of V1 and V2 Hyper-V, and after that, I say, hey, I really want to see how virtualization being used, and hey, just across the lake is Amazon, and EC2 is actually still in the infancy, and I went there, joined them. Little do I know how much challenge that adopting virtualization and public cloud involved, right? And I go in, I still remember the early days, and there will be this email sent out to all the managers in the EC2 group to say how much revenue we got today and how many customers we get, and they actually update it every day. And then that's still exciting. Say, oh, today we get double, and another day we get 2 more, and that's actually still exciting time. And now that I look back, I say, wow, we're so crazy, and what's 100 customer means. Anyway, so yeah, and spend time in AWS and EC2 and build a security and engineering team. It was exciting to see a business grow to a multi-billion-dollar business and become the biggest business in Amazon. And if I think about my career being really driven by the technology, I think I'm really converging on the cloud and security space over the last decade, because I feel that there's still so much going on, still so much I can work on, and that's a really kind of my technology path, career path. However, through my time in Amazon, I also realized that while I'm still an engineer at heart, and just being good at my technology field is not going to make me a better leader, right? And I realized that I actually need to consciously intentionally, proactively work on my leadership skill, become a better communicator, influence the right people at the right time, and really lead a bigger organization to achieve bigger goals. And those are the things that I realized over the last 10, 15 years that I need to consciously work on. That doesn't come naturally, right? And as someone that, as an engineer, I'm really just very interested in kindling different stuff. So, however, this is a change for me, and I've been spending a lot of time over the last 10, 15 years on it. And I think that's actually one of the reasons for me to join the Silicon Valley leadership community, and really to learn more from each other, from other leaders and also help the next generation engineer to become better leaders.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. So talk about communications is a very natural transition to Carol. So just like Steve worked at large corporations, but also sounds like they're almost like a startup environment at the very beginning. And Carol, you have been working as a CEO of the startup, and then you transition to large corporations, and you've been carrying different kind of roles. So how did you pick those paths, and what is the what are the pivoting points for you?
Yeah, I'm a lot like Steve in that I'm probably the accidental person in tech, because my background, I'm not an engineer by education. I was I was an economics major, and then I went to business school. And when I was leaving business school in the 90s, most people were going to investment banking or consulting. And I've spent most of my life doing different things because I like going where the crowd does not go. And so at that time, very few MBAs were going into technology companies. So I went to work at Apple, and it was the best decision I ever made. I learned a tremendous amount, and I was bitten by the bug. And part of it too is also, when you think about different career choices, is where can you stand out more? And I would suggest that, a lot of technology marketing is not very good. We all know that you can have great technology, but if you don't have a strong go-to-market or strong differentiation or strong messaging, that it won't matter. And, 101 is littered with companies who had great technology, but just never really had success. So that was a big eye-opener for me, in that if I could help drive really good expression of value, and if I could drive solutions to the market, if I could help people, like the engineering teams help express the value, then perhaps I could create some differentiation for myself. So I've stayed in it for over 20 years. And then I was the accidental CEO. I really had not thought very hard about it, except that every career move I've made, it's because I have followed a person. Pretty much. And it's always been that I met someone who I just thought had a really strong, innovative idea, and I wanted to be part of that. And the passion has kind of carried me. And that's what happened. I met one of the board members, and then I met the CEO of this startup, and I thought, I could help them. And why not? Like, I've been a general manager. I've led very large teams. And I thought, well, why not push myself a little bit outside of my comfort zone? So I think, that's been something else I've tried to do, is always stay on the edge of my comfort zone. And then, obviously, going from Elasticbox, which was a cloud management platform, to Google Cloud, which is also obviously in the cloud space. Google Cloud, when I got there 3.5 years ago, it was like a startup. I mean, we had very few processes. We were not even number 3 in the cloud. We were very far behind. So I like that. I like the innovative process. I like building. So that's how I ended up there. And then recently I chose to leave Google Cloud to join VMware as the CMO, primarily for a few reasons. I still think very highly of all the clouds, but I do think that at some point over time that, every single cloud, with all due respect to Tencent and Alibaba and AWS, et cetera, every cloud is seeking differentiation. And they're seeking it in different ways, whether it's AI, ML, whether it's around, other, data and data management. But what was the glue? The reality is, and we're going to talk about it later, is we're in a multi-cloud world. And I really think that VMware is strategically positioned to be more of the glue between private cloud, public clouds, and, helping enterprises with some of their challenges, which we can talk about more later. But anyway, I'm really excited. I think the innovation that we're seeing, especially, in this current very unprecedented time, is really exciting. And I do think technology can be an equalizer if used well and applied well. It can be an equalizer in a very, very unequal world at times.
Yeah, it's definitely a very special time. I think in the last 6 months, all of us have experienced many different things, from COVID-19 to many different initiatives going on, I think, in different communities. So I think the natural questions, and you've probably been asked about this quite a bit, is that what kind of, what is the new norm and what is baseline and impact by COVID-19? So we'll go with Davy again.
Okay.
Hi,
Right.
I'm going sequence by sequence.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, actually, everybody experiencing this pandemic during the past several months, and we could see from the cloud perspective, we could see some businesses are growing very fast, and some businesses are closed. So for us, we could see that the new normal will be like a lot of business will be transforming from offline to online. So including like remote work collaboration tools, and distance learning tools, and online booking tools. So for all those kind of area, we could see our customers are growing really, really fast. Tencent is the world leading gaming company. Definitely people in this kind of a pandemic, in this kind of virus, people are tended to have to stay at home, and they have a lot of spare time. Some of them spend their spare time on gaming. So more and more people are playing gaming. So with this kind of growth, definitely the assumption on cloud will grow definitely. And the other trend we can see, not only domestic, but also international communications have become more and more frequent online. So with this can only be happen with the help of cloud. Here's another example. Tencent has a communication tool called Tencent Meeting. Here we call Wolf Meeting. In around 1 month, the consumption of the resources more than 1 million CPU, virtual CPUs. This could only happen with the help of cloud, and we help a lot of companies to the communication online in China, in US, and across international. So this will become another new normal. People like to have to spend more time online. And on the other hand, some people choose to stay online by learning more things, because they don't need to commute. They don't need to waste their time on the traffic. So they will have more time to have online trainings, and also including my kids. My daughter is doing the distance learning almost every day. So maybe this will be the new normal. People like to self-learning online and choose whatever they want. So we can see a lot of companies, especially our customers, growing very fast on those kind of distance learning services area.
All right, thank you. So Steve?
Yeah, sorry, I had some AV issue earlier, but certainly this is a strange year with the COVID situation for everyone. And as we experienced multiple months with this, nobody have expected this will last this long, but this certainly feels like it's become the norm. One of the things that we always do is really check on with the teams and our employees and team members to make sure that everybody have a way to cope with it. And it's in a very strange way that working from home long time actually increased quite a bit of a stress level for everybody in this, which is very strange. And for example, I have an employee that they have a babysitting problem because now they're both working as a working couple, and then the babysitter cannot come in to take care of kids. They have 2 kids. So now the couple is really scrambled trying to balance between work and the family life, right? Those are really, really strange time and strange stress that we haven't been experienced or anticipate. And certainly there are other ways impact, for example, the IT department, when everybody is working from home, what does that do to their IT infrastructure? Are they ready to support that kind of load, right? And those are all the strange and challenging things that everybody's trying to work through. However, certainly I also hear positive side for people work from home. Some people enjoy it. Some most of us feel that okay, work from home once a while is okay, but working a couple months is really, really strange, and actually it's a lot of stress for all of us. However, there are people that prefer that because they feel that they are a lot more productive. They get a lot more throughput that way. However, for example, Twitter's offering for employee to work from home for forever, and I don't know if that's a trend to for all the tech company to embrace the global team dynamic and work out the time zone difference and make more global team as a reality than previously people thinking about it. Right now, it's reality, and this I think I'm looking at this as a positive side, how the business, technology business particularly, how to embrace it, learn from it, and actually change how we operate moving forward, right? And I was able to spend almost 2 months in Hawaii with my family because both my kids just not, their school is all remote. I say, hey, whatever, that's a work from home where we can just work somewhere else. So, and it's strange for me to get up 6 o'clock in the morning to catch up the meeting so I don't miss everything. And then, but on the other hand, it's a new norm. Certainly feels that way. I also see a lot of the new business opportunities or different business opportunities. Certainly, I realize that now we bought so much from Amazon every day. It's crazy. So many stuff, how many stuff delivered to our home, and Amazon sale just soar in this COVID situation. E-commerce as a whole is hitting a sweet spot. We have a lot of small Asian food and fast food delivery business just pop up left and right in Seattle. And half my meal and I actually deliver that way. And my wife just get so comfortable with it. So, and then the last not least is I feel one thing I miss most as personally is how can I figure out a way to meaningfully connect with my team when I can no longer have this in-person connection, right? Happy hour, coffee time, and a casual conversation to meet up some prospect, a candidate, and all that. That's no longer an option. How can we change from that more in-person social connection to a less direct virtual kind of interaction? It's something I'm still thinking about, and certainly change your workplace and change how we behave. I have a friend that I haven't met for probably 10 years. And I reach out to him, say, hey, we should have a virtual beer. And he said, what's virtual beer? And then we end up have a meet and over in front of a monitor and all that. But I feel good that I was able to connect, even though it was a difficult time.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. But definitely I can relate myself to that. So Kara, do you also have that similar experience and challenges?
Well, can you imagine changing jobs during this unusual time? Like, how do you actually offboard and onboard? You know, usually when you leave a company, you have a dinner and a get together and say goodbye. And then when you join a company, there's usually, you know, the in-person. So it's definitely been unusual. I just want to say to everybody who's listening, I hope everyone is safe. I hope everyone is healthy. This is, yeah, it is very unusual. And I just hope everyone's well. I want to join you, Steve, in Hawaii. And what a brilliant idea, because really it is work from anywhere. I mean, that's what makes it so unusual. And Davy talked about the work transformation and what's happened with working remote. But we've definitely seen it. And in fact, we anticipate, prior to COVID-19, VMware had about 20% of the working population working from home. And we're fortunate, right? A lot of, programming, and we can sit in front of a computer. Our jobs still continue. We're anticipating that post-COVID or even once it is safe to start to go back to the office, which we will do it in a very conservative way, I'm sure everyone will, that only, maybe 40%, 50%, maybe will come back, but we anticipate up to 60% will continue to work remotely. And I think it's pretty incredible because it opens up the door for so much possibility. We've seen our productivity increase. I'd be curious if the others have as well. We've actually seen, like, I'm extraordinarily productive. I can talk to 10 customers, over the course of a few days versus in, pre-COVID, getting on a plane, going to talk to a customer. Now, the downside is what Steve was referring to as some of the mental health issues. And believe me, I have 2 children who have come back home, and, being the cook, the cleaner, the everything, the gardener, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot, and it takes some time. Let me talk a little bit about what we're seeing with customers, with enterprise customers in particular, and commercial customers, SMBs. So everything Davy said, there are certainly pockets that are accelerating, like he mentioned, gaming, a lot of e-commerce, like Steve mentioned. But at the same time, there are some businesses that we definitely, some of the businesses are in this recovery mode. Financial institutions were definitely in the recovery mode. Initially, we had a very large bank who had to move all of their systems from the office to effectively work from anywhere. And for traders, can you imagine, like, how do you get thousands of traders who need security, a super fast connection, because they're trading stocks in real time? Like, imagine that. And so we were able to partner with them and help them move effectively in a few weeks, which normally would have taken months, if not years. So I think that's a really good example of, like, the recovery, like helping companies recover. On the other end of the spectrum is, what Davy's talking about, these companies who are actually growing and even innovating through this. And so I think that's the other end of the spectrum, where there are new startups who are taking advantage. Certainly, I think Steve was mentioning new companies who are popping up food delivery and doing more food. I mean, that's incredible. I think it's changing and will change, like, how we order, how much we eat out. And I know personally, I was not a DoorDash person, and now we use DoorDash quite a bit. So I think the customer behavior has changed, and some of these businesses who are in the kind of low touch, no touch are in a great place. And if they're not, then those companies are all coming to us saying, how do we drive more low touch, more self-service? How do we apply more automation, which is right up your alley? I'm sure, like, applying more automation, whether it's through machine learning or just better algorithms. Like, how do we apply that to what we're doing? And Steve, actually, I suspect you're seeing a lot of demand for security too, because as we're working from anywhere, like, how do we ensure the data is secure, our devices are secure? So that's a part of the VMware business. We have an end user computing business, which is just skyrocketing, like many businesses who are in that realm. Like, we're using Zoom. Zoom is one of our customers, and their demand has just taken off.
Yeah.
So it's a real mix, it's kind of a tale of 2 cities in terms of some companies really struggling and suffering, like those who really depend upon physical interaction, and then those who are able to actually, innovate and convert and transform.
Yeah. I actually press a lot of business to, in a very short period of time, boot camp from offline to online. For many delayed industries, for example, financial industry, as you mentioned, not just trading, but also bank transfer, how do you write a check? A lot of things that require personal signature now have to transfer to online.
Exactly. I just spoke with a large bank a few weeks ago, and they were telling me that they actually have a challenge because there's a certain generation, I'm not going to, stereotype, but who aren't used to online banking, who very much like to go into a physical building to cash a check, to withdraw money. And totally behind. Like, how do we reach out to them? And, you know, you probably recognize this, but it turns out most banks, at least on the retail side, they make 80% of their money from that older segment.
Yes.
And the digital natives
about.
who are very comfortable are actually not their high asset customers yet. So tough, it's a challenge.
Yes, definitely. I definitely presented both challenge and opportunities. I think for traditional business and also new startup as well. So I was on a panel last week with very diversified panelists talk about post COVID-19 leadership. So there's one thing that I think that I remembered as very interesting is from General George Casey, who led the Afghanistan war back then. And he gave a very simple recommendation. He said, in a time of uncertainty, lead with clear mind and pure heart, and act with courage, because you don't know what the future would be. So you have to take the action and take with courage and be ready for plan A, plan B, and plan C. So the other thing he mentioned is communication is really important. Communication with your team, as Steve mentioned, right? So in this uncertain time, how do you communicate with your team? And he said just 3 things. It needs to be candid communication. You need to be very honest with your team. It needs to be empathetic. So they can relate to you. They will listen to you. And it needs to be frequent communication. So candid, empathetic, frequent communication. Lead with clear mind and pure heart. And I think it's a really good recommendation, even coming from military, but totally can be applied to the business world. So we talk about COVID-19. So since this is the cloud computing discussion, so I would like to ask you, if you have to pick one of the most important trends in cloud computing, which one would you pick and why? So we'll still go back with Davy. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely, no problem. So from my observation and according to my experience and skills, I could see that one of the trend is like industry-based service and product. We all know that I've been for this field for more than 10 years, and the cloud computing started with like a compute storage, like where Steve works for AWS, it's EC2. Definitely, it's the compute service, and along with compute service, we cloud computing have the storage and network database. Those are we call the basic services. And after several years, this area become more and more mature, and there's no difference between those cloud computing companies. But recently, I could see the trend for most of the public cloud computing is that they will have more and more focusing on the industry. So we call it industry-based solution. I could share with one of the example for the companies, especially. Still, I would like to take a gaming company as an example. If you want to start with a new game, you have to make a lot of effort, not only on the gaming itself, but also say how to communicate, how to let the players communicate with each other all over the world, right? This is the hard requirement for most of the gamings. People need to interaction with each other in the gaming, even in the gaming world, especially during this kind of virus, right? Hard time. People like to communicate, not only real world, but also in the gaming world. And for those kind of scenario, a lot of a public company, including Tencent, we have a service, especially for gaming customers. They can talk to each other with several lines of code. Just to give you an example, currently, whenever what you want, you are doing the gaming, you are doing live streaming, you are doing e-commerce, you are doing education. You can not only the basic services you can leverage, but also a lot of industry-based solution you can leverage. Say, for example, another example is from retail, right? People all, I'm happy to have a chance to discuss with several C-level leaders in New York about the luxury brand who has a big presence in China. So the interesting part is most of them think that China, the China retailers can provide the best customer experience, maybe more advanced than the US here. People can do the mobile payment, the loyalty system, the membership system, and the accurate social media ad system. All the experience in China are really great. So a lot of cloud computing company provide those kind of solutions to the e-commerce companies and also the retailers. So the other retailers can take advantage of that solution services to build their system very efficiently instead of from scratch. So that's something I'd like to pick is solution industry-based solution services.
That's very interesting. So you mentioned gaming and retail, two examples.
Yeah.
So what are the key focus for Tencent industries at this point? Assuming gaming is one of those.
Right. Gaming, like we have some services special for gaming. So one of them is called GME, just like I mentioned, can equip the game with a real voice and real text communication, just with several lines of code. This is a management service. And also for gaming, we have another service that can help the gaming to deploy the lobby server and battle server in 10 minutes. So, right. So this can help you get rid of those kind of low value work, operation work, and focusing on the game itself. And for retail, another interesting thing I want to mention here, the reason why I pick the industry based is that Tencent has a transforming reorganization in 2018. So our organization is called CSIG. It's Cloud and Smart Industry. So from the name, you can tell that Tencent is starting focusing on the industry almost 1.5 years ago, and cloud as the basement for all those kind of smart industry solutions. And for smart retail, just like I mentioned, there's a whole bunch of integrated services and products we can provide from the user acquisition and the CRM, payment system, membership system, loyalty system, and social media ads system. So we provide a very comprehensive end-to-end solutions to those retailers and e-commerce companies.
Got it. Thank you. And Steve, what do you think? Which one would you choose?
Before I choose, I'll comment on what Davy said about the industry. I feel that there are certainly a lot of offer to provide a vertical solution for the customers to make their life easier, because a lot when we talk about cloud, it's sometimes too easy to think that's an infrastructure play, right? And the truth is, for most of customers outside of this field, they don't care about infrastructure. They care about deliver their application, right? So, ideally, we should make this all transparent to them so that they can focus on do their job, right? So that's the holy grail of all this. So certainly, I will concur that the industry-specific offering is something is happening. And in my company, Salesforce, and we actually have an organization, Uber organization, we call it industry. Is really just look at Salesforce as a generic SaaS platform. How can we package them up and offer industry-specific solution? For example, last year we announced the manufacturer cloud or consumer good cloud, and that's one of the examples that companies starting to pay attention to offer vertical specific solutions. And the FinCloud, I'm sure that everybody's heard of it, how the financial industry trying to offer a special service so that other bank or financial industry can build on top of that, right? So I think that's certainly a trend. So I'm not going to repeat that. I've been thinking about I'm still thinking about from a technology and infrastructure layer, what are some of the trends that I'm seeing? I think there's certainly there's multi-cloud continue to be a hot subject. I think that will continue to be hot and much discussed subject, because now become more important than ever, because there are actually multiple fairly big credible players than 10 years ago, right? So that's continue to be a trend. And I'm not going to dive too deep into that subject. However, I think with the development or maturity of a Kubernetes container, we finally get to a place that we can package and deliver some application in a semi-cloud independent fashion, right? I think I'm really seeing the trend that people believe that, okay, Kubernetes finally help all the different messy cloud player to solve the consistency problem through the container orchestration. And I think now people starting to worry about how do we have a relatively consistent manner to deliver the application, right, to the actual users, so that really free them up thinking about infrastructure, right? And that's really, I think the application delivery mechanism is a technology trend is going to start, well, it's already started. I think it's going to continue to get hit up in the year 2. And because we feel that container is finally a platform that we can build on, right? Kubernetes and container is finally a platform we can build on, so that we don't have to be bogged down by a cloud dependent component. So that's my thought, right? Application delivery, it's something that it's going to continue to hit up.
Okay. So Steve mentioned about multi-cloud. I think Kara, you mentioned that earlier, and you're passionate about multi-cloud. Do you think that's the one trend that you're going to bet on?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's already here, right? You know, if you talk to most enterprises and even not SMBs, most enterprises, they will tell you they're using multiple clouds.
Yeah.
I think the big difference from what we thought maybe a few years ago is we thought it would be, you know, different parts of one application on different, no, people are choosing specific clouds for specific applications. And it just depends on, you know, what your application needs and what the cloud offers. So I think that for sure. What Steve said, I'll just build on what Steve said around containers. So Elastic Box was built around the idea of this portability between clouds. You know, sadly, it was 7 years too early. So, you know, timing is always everything with startups, at least. So the reason why, so containers bring a few things. I feel like now I'm the technologist, and Davy gave the business, the industry view, which is, you know, going to market around industries, which is normally what I would talk about. But containers are critical because they bring, I like to think of them, and there was an engineer at Google Cloud who always said they're the operating system of the future. The reason is because it really can help you. It takes it abstracts the application from the infrastructure, and it provides you cloud portability so that programmers don't have to rewrite the code for every new operating system, every new cloud platform. 2, it's a common platform for application distribution, so you can distribute and isolate portions of the application, and it gives you actually more robustness and frankly, more scalability. It's a standard way, Kubernetes and containers, standard way to develop and deploy services and microservices, so that, you know, containers, they break up all your applications into smaller pieces. And that's what drives a lot of that agility, ability to deliver dramatically faster, and to deliver software just overall faster. So that productivity, that efficiency, and, you know, it is the future. It is the future of software development. It's already here in many places. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how companies approach that and how they move some of their monolithic apps. Now, they're not going to move everything. Some applications are so brittle and old, like nobody wants to touch them. They will stay on premise, they will stay where they are. So that's what leads to this multi-cloud world we're in. And when I say multi-cloud, I don't mean just multiple hyperscaler clouds. I mean the combination of on-premise and in the cloud. Like, you know, there's so many applications that customers have that, it's going to take a long time before they can actually be moved. It just doesn't make sense. It's not efficient. And the ability to like re-platform and rewrite is not feasible in the short term. Now, what does that mean for the future? Like the implications, for any of us who are at large companies, not just as a technology provider, but running an enterprise, it means how do you start to think about all the, I call them the illities, securability, manageability, observability, like all of that just becomes 10 times harder potentially. And you have many more environments that you're trying to manage. So I think that is going to be the challenge. You know, when you look at all the data around the cost to manage all the applications and servers versus even with public cloud, which is, you know, managed by others, the complexity is increasing.
Yeah.
So anyway, we can talk more about that. Thank you.
Yeah. So Carrie, you brought a good point. So now we're gonna see more applications, more environment, obviously more different kind of devices, and there will also going to be cross-border collaborations. So the natural question is that then what about security, right? So security, compliance, and data privacy management, it's one of the biggest questions that people will ask and evaluate. So Davy, Tencent Cloud, obviously you have a lot of cross-border collaborations. So what's your point of view on this?
Right, yeah. Actually, you know, from day one, talking about public cloud, the most concern from our customer is the security. So the first three questions asked by our customer is the security, and security. So not only Tencent Cloud, but pretty much every cloud, because I think that's an interesting because we call public cloud, and customer always think, wow, it's public cloud. Does that mean everything I put on cloud is public? Definitely, that's not the story. So what I can translate those questions into from the customer's perspective, especially for our audience. How do verify or how do think how to define the security? I have several suggestions. One is, you know, the most authority and the most powerful way to verify this cloud is secure or not, or compliant or not, is from the professional associations. They will give the certificates for the cloud who think they are compliant, they are secure. For example, for PSS, those kind of association can verify, can make sure that all the transaction data can be stored on cloud because they think your cloud is safe enough. So first question is about the regulator and the professional associations. And second, you should look at the successful case, especially the big companies. You know, all the Fortune 500 companies, they have a very comprehensive way to evaluate the security and compliance of a cloud. If you could see some big name, big logo of the cloud, so that will give you more confidence about how it is, how secure the cloud is, because you know they have already go through the whole process, maybe much stronger and comprehensive than themselves. A third one is read the white paper and follow the best practice. I'm always saying that, you know, the security of cloud is not only relies on the cloud service provider, but also, you know, about yourself, the way you protect your data. So I always have an example for our customers. If you have a debit card and you insist to put the PIN code as 1, 2, 3, 4, and you write the code on the card and you put the card on the grocery store, and somebody take your card and get the money, you cannot blame the bank saying, hey, the bank is not safe and my money got lost, right? They provide all kinds of ways to protect your money, but you need to follow the practice. So that's my suggestions about security. And actually, every cloud runs on multi-regions, multinational. So for example, Tencent Cloud, we have pretty much provide services on almost every continent. And one of the important things for us is to compliance with every compliance for every country and every region. including the Europe, GDPR, including China, including here in the US.
Got it. And what about Salesforce?
Yeah, so adopting a public cloud imply a lot of trust to your public cloud provider, right? Salesforce, AWS, right? And especially if the public cloud provider happen to be a multi-tenancy, which is most of them, right? For the economic of scale. So as a business to adopt a multi-tenant cloud environment, there's a lot of trust you put on the cloud provider, and a lot of security problem that people don't normally foresee, right? For example, noisy labor, hypervisor breakout, and we have some of those challenges when in my EC2 days. And not all the cloud provider have the good security control on access management and compliance certification, right? So I think one of the things that we always need to for all the enterprise to really understand is security problem doesn't go away. It's not better or worse. It's change the dimension from your on-prem solution to a public cloud solution, right? Be it Salesforce being a SaaS platform. Now you have different set of security problem, or AWS, and which is a multi-cloud IaaS environment. So really, in AWS, I was one of in one of those teams that promote the idea of the shared responsibility, which is one of the great things AWS security promote. Basically, the idea is when it comes to security, there's always part of the security responsibility owned by your vendors and part of it owned by yourself. And that line actually changed between on-prem and public cloud environment, right? So really, for the enterprise, really you want to do your homework and really understand where the line ends from your provider. And also from there, understand what the new tools you have and what the paradigm shift, right? For example, some of the things that you don't normally need to worry about in on-prem environment, now you need to worry about in public cloud. On the other hand, the other kind of problem that you may have a better solution in cloud and you are actually in effect more secure. Like for example, for the longest time until recently, on AWS, it's actually not possible to do effective network monitoring. I know there's a lot of vendors trying to provide some solution, but until AWS provide a native solution, it's actually not performant when you want to do security network monitoring. I think it's just converged finally in the last year and this year, AWS have that solution. So before that, you just cannot apply your on-prem security control with the network monitor in a public cloud infrastructure. Now you actually have to use other control like on your application level, your encryption, and other method to protect your asset, right? However, cloud give you some advantage you never have, right? For example, in the on-prem environment, you want to deal with a patching. Patching is actually your security mitigation number one, right? If you patch your software, you probably cut off half the problem that you could run into, right? However, on cloud, you have a such better solution. You don't patch because VMware containers are cheap to replace. You just get a new operating system, just kill them, right? So every 2 months, you just kill them. You don't patch them. And you have a much cleaner a solution, and which we will never have in your own data center, right? So those really, that security mindset, a different solution, using the right tool and understand where the responsibility ends. As you, Lake, you talk about cross-border and how cloud changed this, which is a very, very interesting problem. And I actually don't know if there's a convergence, how the cloud providers or business itself will solve those problems, right? With the GDPR become a reality, and how we deal with the European regulation, and then each of the countries have their own regulation, right? For example, Russia, China, Germany, and all this, a few other countries that they actually demand that all their citizens' data has to be physically in their data center, right? So if you have a customer, Germany customer, their data better be a data center in Germany. Otherwise, that you violate the law, you could get yourself into trouble. That actually applies to both the cloud provider as well as the enterprise, right? When you operate in Germany. So it's actually in the world of technologists to think about everything is connected. Data can be replicated and be redundant, can be stored anywhere to get you the best performance and cost benefit. This presents a huge problem and challenge. And certainly in the cross-border collaboration at the government level, it's going to be hard-pressed to come by given the dynamic of international politics. And I think there are certainly opportunity for business to come up with innovative solutions, for example, using encryption, using other technology to ensure to help business and the cloud provider to solve this problem. To be honest, I think GDPR has been here for 1.5 years now, and is still, I think, both the implementation by all the providers and the enforcement by the EU themselves has been a challenge. And I think it's still very much a in-play story, and there's also opportunity too. And I don't think I have a silver bullet on that, but it's certainly very much a hot subject. Yeah.
Mm. So Kara, I know you only been in VMware for 2 weeks. So you can feel free to comment from either VMware or Google Cloud perspective. And I think for Google Cloud, one of the comments I've heard in the past was Google is so big and trying to do many different things, just like Amazon. So for the companies who somewhat in the competition of the sectors don't feel comfortable have the data to be stored at Google Cloud. So what do you think?
So I'll talk about that first, which is, yes. So people talk about security, and like Steve and Davy were both mentioning, it's actually several subparts. There's security, like identity and container security, and then there's privacy,
right?
Which is usually more policy, and then compliance, as we were talking about GDPR, which as it relates to data. So the cloud actually is more secure in many ways in terms of access control, identity. It truly is. And the big piece around like Google Cloud in particular is that company, there is a very strong wall between the way that Google Cloud, GCP, Google Cloud Platform runs, and the rest of Google and the advertising business. Just like Tencent has many businesses, even Amazon has some consumer side with, obviously their e-commerce and Alexa. Like, this is becoming a growing problem, and I think it is incumbent. And I thought, I think Google does a pretty good job trying to very hard to differentiate and express, especially to enterprise customers, your data is always your data. And I just want to reiterate that. From the VMware perspective, I think the problem is actually much broader, because the problem is when you talk to any large enterprise, they have on average anywhere between 50 to 70 security vendors. Firewall, identity. Oh, and the cloud they've chosen for some apps also has its set of security and tools. They have something for single sign-on. They have something for the firewall. Like, it is a mess. And frankly, we're all part of that, in that we keep buying new tools, we keep shipping new tools, and look at all the startups that keep coming like every year. And so I worked at Trend Micro for over 6 years, and I kept saying every year, like, isn't the industry going to consolidate? And that was 12 years ago. Like, when are we going to simplify this and consolidate this? And so, Google Cloud had this opinion, and I know actually a lot of our competitors have this. VMware definitely believes that security has to be built in. It has to be built in at every level, whether it's the compute layer, the data layer, the access layer, the network, everywhere. And so it can't be bolted on. And that's some of the problem. Like, this whole, we are crazy when I see a customer buying fundamentally a box to protect boxes. It's like, wow, we are really, we're really not doing our customers a favor. And so, what we're trying to do is at VMware is provide a unified way because we do have products for the network, we do have products for compute, we do have products that are multi-cloud, and we do have Kubernetes, and we have at the application layer. So we're trying to build security into all those places and then provide context to a customer so that they actually have context. Because when you think about it, like, that is the key. Like, you know, security is known for having many, many false positives, whether it's at all different layers. And part of it's because historically it's based upon algorithms and based upon heuristics that can't keep up with the bad guys. So context becomes incredibly important. And you would know, you know, a lot of companies are trying to apply machine learning to a lot of the data that's being generated from these many security pieces of software and hardware. So how do we help our customers make sense out of that noise? And fundamentally, that's where context comes into play. And, you know, from the VMware perspective, we think we can provide a pretty unique perspective, because between what we have in the infrastructure side, what we have in the network, what we have with our endpoint products and solutions, like, and then working with many, many partners like the ones on this call, being able to then provide, or take these, think of these as cameras that are all collecting data at different places and bringing that all together to help customers simplify and figure out like what's really happening in context. So that's where I think it's going. It's so funny. I feel like Davy and I have switched positions today. I love when he talks business and I'm talking about more of the technical piece.
Yeah.
And I think when we were at Trend Micro, we used to talk about this, that we're not helping customers as much as we can. And that security companies need to start to think about simplifying, unifying, getting this contextual piece together. And we all need to be partners and frenemies in this battle. I mean, back to what COVID is bringing, I'd love to hear if other people have seen this as well. With COVID and people working from anywhere, working from home, the phishing attacks have increased. In fact, you know, click on this to get access to your network, click on this. And these devices, everybody's working on devices from home, and the rush and the need to secure everyone. Some companies were really well prepared, you know, many technology companies, but a lot of companies weren't. So COVID has actually increased the threat landscape and the amount of threats for companies.
Yeah, this is actually really naturally paving to the Q&As session, because we have some questions related to what you just commented, Kara, which is, do you think there are going to be some consolidations and M&As happening in the space? And do you think, you know, what type of startups that may actually, the cloud players interested in acquiring? I'm assuming there are audience of founders and or, you know, key team members from the startups. They're really interested in this question. And somewhat related to that also, the other question is, do you think the long-term cloud services will become utilities with no material differentiation? So this is a Q&A, so whoever wants to jump on it, you're welcome to speak.
Well, I think from a technologist point of view, certainly we love to see the day that cloud become utility, then people will actually not worry about it. Like, I think we're far from it, in my opinion. And certainly as it evolves, we have some of the very, very big players. I don't see that consolidation coming anytime soon. And that's why I am so hot on the converge on the higher layer, like on the container, Kubernetes, and then like Carol said, right, having better management solution to unify this heterogeneous environment is probably our only hope to deliver those common set of technology to our customers, right? I think that's my thought, and certainly there are plenty of opportunity in that field, because like I said, I have been fairly pessimistic myself for a long time to see how they converge, because each of the cloud players will develop the best technology and incompatible technology to their competitive advantage, right? Can't blame them. But on the other hand, I think I am actually pretty bullish in terms of container and Kubernetes, that I'm seeing that finally through the last couple of years that the industry is converging on something that we can build on. I think that's plenty of opportunity there. I think, however, the challenge is, as Carl said, right, you are not going to be able to write everything in container, even in many cases, not even possible, right? And not a good return on investment. So there's still an opportunity outside of that, but certainly for the new investment, it will be foolish not to look into how to leverage containers so that you can be a little bit more cloud agnostic in your workload.
Yeah, this is Davy. So from my perspective, you can see my experience working for most of the cloud companies. My opinion on this is we just talk about multi-cloud, and I do see a lot of opportunities on multi-cloud strategy. Like Steve and Carol mentioned, cloud cannot be unified, cannot be the unity overnight. You know, there's a long time to go, long way to go. But during the process, a lot of enterprise like to leverage multi-cloud from both business perspective and technical perspective. Business perspective, you have the bargaining power, and technically you don't heavily depends on the stability of one cloud. So there's several directions. For example, how to manage those resources on different cloud, how to monitor the different resources on multiple cloud, and how to do the unified CI/CD process, and how to manage the cost. So as well as the network, right? So we do have a lot of partners working on those areas, and I believe that since multi-cloud will become the trend, a lot of cloud service provider will like invest or acquire those kind of companies we call CMP, Cloud Management Platform. So yeah, that's my personal thoughts.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's what Elastic Box did just 6 years too early. It was a CMP. So too bad I didn't know you back then, Davy. So I would agree. I would say there are 3 areas that would be very interesting. And actually there are many startups in this area because there is demand. One is around anything that can be a glue function for multi-cloud, meaning around networking, because networking is hairy. Every implementation has networking challenges. So anything that can help with migration, implementation, kind of gluing together disparate systems, whether it's observability or management, definitely think that's an area. The second area, we didn't talk about this today, which is an area, and I think COVID is accelerating this, is the edge, computing at the edge. And I think, you know, and I know just from listening and talking to many, many customers, I spend a lot of my time talking to customers, that there is demand for how do you push, you know, it's the truly distributed computing that we've been talking about for years, but push more of that compute and intelligence to the edge. And whether it's a branch office or a device on an oil rig far, far away that needs to self-monitor and self-heal, there's a lot of that. And how do you collect the data, process it, and make decisions further where you don't have connectivity or it's very low latency. And then the third is actually, I think it's one of your areas, like, which it was very, very hot pre-COVID, which is the application of machine learning and AI to a whole set of problems for different industries. And I know that as companies have been in this kind of recover and reduce cost and ensure resiliency, that there's, you know, some of those companies have not yet moved to, oh my gosh, let's innovate our way out of this. But I imagine that area will still continue because there's so much yet to be discovered and there's so much yet to be done. And all we're seeing across the board, whether it's more security tools throwing off more data, whether it's more, you know, more management tools collecting more data, we're in data overload, all of us, every customer. And so how do you really derive insights in real time from the data. And in some cases, you don't need machine learning. You just need really good data mining and good algorithms. And in some cases, machine learning can help us a lot. It can help us, a great example is, 90% of security breaches come from, and Steve knows this because he's in security, come from misconfiguration. Mm-hmm. Well, what if, you actually have smart applications that can actually make suggestions and can help you in advance identify those misconfigurations. So there's a lot of room for machine learning, lots of different use cases across many industries. But I think that's it'll bubble back.
Yeah. I actually echo that. I think from a VC perspective, all the areas all three of you have talked about, multi-cloud migration, networking, edge devices, application, machine learning, and security, all those things. And we have seen a lot of activities, not even decrease after COVID-19, as on the opposite. And we see a lot of activities, both from an investment and from investment, and also from like the startup activities. We're seeing a lot more after COVID-19. Okay, so there is another question here. Ask, how do your panelists see the demand capacity of clouds talking to each other? Many customers of our clients are on different cloud platforms, and they have some issues on data sharing. Yeah, I think that probably is representative for those large customers who using multi-clouds. Anyone want to take this one?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So how do you see the demand capacity of clouds talking to each other? Many customers of our clients are on different cloud platforms, and they have issues on data sharing.
Yeah, I think I don't really understand the first part, demand capacity. Is that like the idea that you would run your e-commerce system or your gaming applications, and if you need demand, you would burst it to another cloud potentially? Is that what that question is?
Demand capacity of let's say demand of clouds talking to each other, right? So I think that the next, because he or she has those questions because the customer have data sharing issues, and then
the data sharing for sure is a big problem. Well, I mean, data egress is incredibly expensive, and every cloud makes it super expensive, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's part of that big challenge. And when you're trying to run applications, but typically, at least what I've seen is companies will decide we're going to put this set of data in one cloud, this set of data in another cloud, because it is very challenging. I don't know, Steve, Davy, you guys are the technical ones. Maybe you have seen better solutions for that.
I actually can make a comments because I've seen the cases before that even the data has been put in different cloud, but in order to drive data insight from the data, sometimes you need to retrieve information from different pieces, right? So I don't know if that represents the question, but I think that is the issue I've seen before.
Yeah, and frankly, because typically you want to process your data closer to where the data sits, because we're talking in a lot of cases like gigabytes. I mean, lots of these data lakes can be huge, right? So that's also part of the problem, and a lot of data is still on premise. Many data warehouses and data lakes are still on premise. So it is a challenge. Like, and when you decide where you want to put it, I think that's why I think companies like Snowflake are doing quite well, because people perceive them as a little more independent, and they can decide then, well, my actual application that needs to access the data could sit on any cloud or on premise. It gives them more flexibility.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, including Snowflake and Iron Mountain, they are doing this kind of work. So from my perspective, from Tencent Cloud, we are quite open. We provide as much as flexibilities for our customers to import data and export data. And also we work closely with our partners, including I mentioned Iron Mountain, Snowflake, as well as the Cloud Exchange Network, which is provided by Econix. Econix hosts a lot of cloud service here, and they have the advantage for the data centers and connect them together. So from Tencent, we are flexible, and we are trying our best to lower the cost to make sure that our customer will be also flexible, share it with other cloud platform, and also import the data from other cloud platform.
Yeah, it's unclear if the question is about the interoperability of the multi-cloud or being able to retrieve the data, right? So I think with GDPR or to some degree, some of the US regulation too, customer do have ownership of the data, right? And I know Amazon does it. And if you really want your data out, they're happy to give you out. It may cost you money. And in fact, I forgot the name of the service that they could ship you a disk, a rack of disks, and with your data on it, right? However, the ownership of data is not a problem. And in fact, when I was in Amazon, there are also scenarios like we have to comply with law enforcement investigation that we need to fetch data to support that too. So however, interoperability with a huge volume of data in multi-cloud is a very complex subject, as Carol have alluded, right? You want the data to be closer to where the processing happens, right? You can talk about hundreds of terabytes or petabytes of data processing, and doing it in a cross-cloud manner may not be the most efficient way to do that, even if they enable that. So to that vein, I think it may actually come back to, like we mentioned, Snowflake, right? Services that upper layer service to give you the illusion of a multi-cloud, but yet they actually reach out to the multi-cloud data source to do the processing, right? Mm-hmm. So those solutions will have its lag, and because enable the customer to leverage the advantage of each cloud. So I'm not too deep into that subject. However, that's something that I have heard customers ask about when they have data in multiple cloud, what's the best way they handle that? It's a tough problem, and certainly that business is trying to solve it.
Yeah, particularly retrieve the data if time is pressing, right? In some of the cases. Okay, so the next question is switching from technology to leadership. Okay, so this is the question about talent acquisitions. How do you acquire talents? How do you maintain your team? What's the best practice for managing a remote working team? Okay.
I'll offer some suggestion, right? And I'll start with how do I attract, or how do I maintain, keep the talent, right? And it's very hard, and it's a competitive environment when it comes to Silicon Valley and to some degree Seattle too, right? And people do have choice where to work, and I have learned, I forgot where I learned that from, that of course we're all talking about people go to places with the highest pay and all that, and it turns out that's not the only way to keep talents around, work on the stuff that you want them to work on, right? So I realized that there are three factors I always consider is my rule to keep talent, right? I say first, you want to make sure that the team understand the purpose. Really is you want them to see where their contribution will contribute to a better good, right? Meaning, be it to help what customer scenario, be it to make a society a better place, right? You need to make them understand if they work all these long hours, there's a purpose. That's actually super motivating for the team to continue to work on something day after day, right? That's one very important factor to motivate the team to stay. And the second is really all the engineers, the technical worker, they want to learn something. They want to learn something, enrich their life, right? Learn a new skill, make a new friend, explore their horizon. And those opportunities are super important for them, so that understand where you can help them to grow the career to get to the next step, right? They enrich their life and their professional career is something also very important. last not least is really we are working with a lot of knowledge workers, and they all want some level of independence, right? They don't like to be micromanaged and someone dictate to them what they're going to do to get their job done, right? They want some level of independence, right? They want manager to say, hey, here's a mission, go deliver that, do the best you can, and do the fastest you can, the best quality, right? So those are the three rules I go by to maintain my team: is give them purpose, enable learning, and give them some level of independence. Those my thought, right? In terms of I will share one story, which is I find it very interesting in this remote environment, that how to keep the team engaged, right? I end up with a large team, and then I actually don't get to meet all my team members all the time. In fact, some of them that take a long time before they have one-on-one with me. And then because it's COVID, I really want to try to connect with the team. So I actually will have an afternoon tea time with my team members in groups, right? I will have them come in to have on a video chat, and we have tea, we play games, and we talk, and only half hour a day. And I realized that I actually developed a better connection with all those team members that don't normally meet with me just because of that. And because now we actually got to talk almost every weekend, which never happened before the COVID situation. So I call it a bonus, because I keep telling them, I say, look, I'm using all my commute time now to connect with you guys. This is great.
Yeah. Do you remind me of what kind of games that you play with your team members?
That's a good question. And Scribble, to play this drawing game, has become very popular. Both my son play with his friend and my teams, and we also do this thing about have your team member tell three truths and one lie about themselves, and have the rest of the team guess which one is a lie, and we get a laugh, and that's another thing. And we also organize like a Netflix party, so we can all watch the same movie, and we have a chat on the side, keep talking about the movie and all that. So those are a couple of examples. Yeah, we try to have some fun in this difficult time.
Yeah, I like the choose versus lie one. You need to get to your team members really well.
Yeah, you learn something like incredible.
Great. Yeah. So
here's my 2 cents about my experience. And first one is combine your team members' personal goal, personal career goal with a company goal. So if you combine them two together successfully, they will feel excited. They will work hard, because this is not only for the company, but it's also for himself. And second is, guide and help your team members with your skills and experience. I'm always telling myself, you're not here to manage them. You're here to help your team members. So I think with those two important things, I can successfully maintain my team members and also help them grow. Yeah, here's my 2 cents very quickly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add, because I love everything you all have said, and exactly what Steve said. I always talk about, I want my team members to feel and be a valued member of a winning team with an inspired mission. Valued member, like they have to feel valued, and they need to feel like they're a member of a tribe. Winning team, you have to define winning in a way that everyone feels like they're achieving and accomplishing. And then the inspired mission, which is what Steve was talking about. And then I love what he just said. I personally, I've always been a working mom for the majority of my career. So I've always had like late night calls and kids and cooking dinner. And so I learned really early in my career, I could not outwork anybody in terms of because there are some people, and they're amazing. They can work 18 hours a day and they can outwork me, and they're going to rise on the ladder. So I learned pretty early that I needed to hire really great people around me and focus on the process, put the process in place, because I had kids, I have all these things, and I have outside interests, and I could not be the person who's always there. So that's kind of been my leadership principle, great people and process, and focus and ask questions about the process, so that I'm not the long pole or the decision maker, for every single decision.
Yeah.
And I love Steve's thing. I love that. We do like funny wig day, or, you know, we do the walking team meeting. Sometimes hard when you're trying to share, you know, materials, but I'm going to try that tea time with the games. I haven't done that.
That sounds
Yeah,
like
we call that cloud tea time, cloud happy hour.
cloud, you know, clown beer, right? Cloud beer. Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Okay, so from what I heard, that so all three of you seem to agree that leading a team at this point is pointing to the right mission, right direction, and empower the team and go through the journey. And they also enjoy each other's company. So I think I'm almost run out of time, but I do have one question that directly pointed to Carol. Okay, so the question is, so why do you change job during this time? Any tips for changing job during shelter in place?
Yeah, actually, it's been surprisingly easier than I thought. And the reason being is kind of what Steve was saying, like less commute time. So you actually get to know people a little bit faster, because you can see their home, you can see what's going on, you see their dogs, you see, versus like when you're in the work office, sometimes you don't have that opportunity to quickly get to know people's personal life, even though you try to ask. So in some ways, like as I've been onboarding and meeting people, you get to a level of intimacy a little bit faster, because, and like, for example, behind me, my dog keeps coming in and out, and a neighbor just came over and jumped in the swimming pool. So like, you know, there's a lot going on. And so now you know a little more about me. But why did I switch? So by the way, I'm still a big believer in Google Cloud. I think there's still tremendous growth that's going to happen there and with all the clouds. And I think Google Cloud has some really amazing technology. All that said, it's for the very reasons I was talking about earlier. In this multi-cloud world, I think VMware's position is unique in that its ability with what we're doing across the network, the end user computing with any cloud, any device, any application, and this ability to provide the management and the glue. I think it's just a really strategic place to be in a multi-cloud world. The second thing, and I'm sure everyone says this, but it's very true, the people. Pat Gelsinger, who's the CEO, is an extraordinary leader, really approachable, super brilliant, as you know, most of these Silicon Valley company leaders are. And he's just created a really, really good culture. And I'm so far very, very happy. And then third thing is, I personally, and this is I started by talking about all the bad B2B marketing that's out there in the world. I have a personal mission. I think marketing is part of a strategic part. It's very strategic for any company. I mean, you know, Steve, you're at Salesforce, and Davy, you're at Tencent, both companies who do marketing really well. And I'm on a personal mission to make sure that B2B marketing is not boring.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to see it. All right, I think we actually just hit the time mark, 8:31. So I want to thank again for the great panel, great questions answered, and I think I love learning from all of you. And then thanks again for Ross here and Silicon Valley leader community host this great event for us to share our ideas and thoughts. Ross, you want to take over?
Thank you, Lake. I just wanted to really, again, thank everyone, Carol, Lake, Davy, Steve. Great insights from everyone. Really appreciate everyone's time. You know, I think, you know, some of the most common themes we heard about was discussion about how to optimize security, especially in the transition to, you know, work from home environment, the multi-cloud, and also how to properly integrate and be the glue as a potential space in the market for a lot of for VMware in particular. That was very interesting to hear about. And as I think another thing that was important was just I come from the recruitment sector and the insights everyone's giving on how to develop and manage and retain the people on your team in a very competitive market is you know, always sensational advice to hear. So I'd really like to thank everyone for your insights. I just wanted to share our screen real quick, just to give a little bit of a quick wrap up and shout out to our media partners as well. So again, first of all, I wanted to thank our co-host Tencent Cloud for helping to put this together with us. And then our media partners, IntelliPro. IntelliPro is a group founded in 2009, based in Silicon Valley. They're a technology-empowered HR consulting services firm covering everything from executive search to campus recruitment, management consulting, RPO, and contractor hiring. So a great partner to both unicorn clients and Fortune 500 companies alike in the tech sector. Another partner we wanted to also mention is FlagDream. They are a training and advisory company that has provided and connected its alumni with over 1,000 real job offers and career opportunities, and partners with over 100 different companies across North America within the technology sector. So providing some excellent mentorship for young potential talents in their career transitions and career development phases. So I just wanted to thank again everyone for taking the time to share their Saturday evenings with us. I hope everyone enjoyed and all the insights provided by our great guests and speakers. And please feel free again to connect on WeChat or on LinkedIn, scan our QR code. Keep an eye out for future events. We do have another one coming up in July, I believe, for the topic of diversity and inclusion within a lot of technology organizations and how this helps to contribute to their innovation capacity as well. So please keep an eye out for future events. And we also of course, always look forward to your feedback on learnings on the event we hosted today. Thank you and have a great evening. And again, thank you to all of our speakers and guests.
Thank you. Happy weekend.
Thank you.
Happy weekend. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.